Martin Luther once said, if you want to change the world, just pick up your pen and write. A very good morning to Bhavani Shankar, principal of Lalaji Memorial Omega International School, our eminent speaker, Ms. Ruchira Mittal, management team of Interact Schools for Belden, young interactors, Rotarians, and analysts from our parent club, Rotary Club of Roypeta, and other Rotary clubs and invited guests. A warm welcome to all of you once again. All of us have experienced the joy of getting lost in the pages of a well-written book. Hats off to all of you who chose to dial in to discuss our shared interest in reading and creative writing or lazing on a Saturday morning. And I promise you that your time will be well spent. Now, I request RCR Annette Club President Raghav to call himself and call the meeting to order.
I declare this meeting open.
Let's begin the meeting on an auspicious note with an invocation by Shankar from our Interact School CSDAV.
Yeah, just wait 1 minute.
Raghav, you have a problem? Can I play otherwise?
It doesn't work for some reason. Could someone else play the invocation?
1 second. Can I try, Raghav?
Yeah, sure.
1 second. Just give me 2 minutes. I think it's getting late.
Very good morning and hearty welcome to one and all. It's an extreme privilege introducing Dr. Shankar, a school leader, researcher, and active advocate of peer learning. He is currently the senior principal at Lalaji Memorial Omega International School.
Excuse me, Aryambika?
1 second. Is there a problem playing? I think for me also it's not getting loaded. Okay. Can we?
Okay.
I think we can all chant Gayatri Mantra by one of our students. I can just tell them.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Bharti, you take the lead.
Yeah. Children, CSDAV, all of you can, one of you can chant. Yes. Tanya is there. Tanya call.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Tanya, start saying Bhurbhuva Swaha. 3
times. Ma'am, shall I start, ma'am?
Yeah, start.
Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्.
Okay. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Now I request President Raghav Subramaniam to deliver the welcome address.
The truth is, does not change lead into gold. It turns the working of the world into words. I would like to welcome our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Bhavani Shankar of LMOIS, Ruchira Mittal, author, editor, and
Mute everyone.
yeah, one second. So let me start again. Can you hear me? Yes, okay.
Raghav, go ahead.
A true alchemist does not change lead into gold. He turns the working of the world into words. I would like to welcome our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Bhavani Shankar, the senior principal of LMOIS, our guest speaker, Ms. Ruchira Mittal, author, editor, mentor for Scholastic, the president of the Rotary Club of Royapeta, Mr. Reggie Jose, the Chandrodaya Interactors, LMOIS, and their coordinator, Mr. Murugesh, the management of CSDAV, Ms. Bharati Mam, and the coordinator, Ms. Madhavi, teachers and interactors, Ms. Uma Shankari, the coordinator of the Interact Club of Vidya Mandira Estancia, their interactors, Rotarians, my fellow Annette presidents, and Annettes for attending this meeting. Writing is a bewitching feeling when one can step into a scene from his imagination and let it drip from their fingertips, allowing people who read his works to enter his mind, touching their souls. It greatly enhances the vocabulary of the writer and the reader too. Whether we see it or not, the world revolves around writing of one kind or another, stretching from journalists writing articles for the newspapers, software engineers writing code, to the heads of nations signing treaties and documents of great importance. It has ever been my dream to become a published author, and I wanted to celebrate this first step I have taken in co-authoring a book sponsored by Scholastic. The experience was wonderful. And now, let us not mince our words. Without further ado, I pass the floor to the MC.
Thank you, Raghav. And Rishwan Subramaniam will give us a short introduction about our guest speaker.
Shreya, it will be Sachita. Sachita who will be introducing the speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry. Sachita will be introducing our guest speaker.
A very good morning to one and all present here. I'm very happy to introduce our chief guest, Mrs. Ruchira Mittal. Ruchira studied English literature from Delhi University. She is a writer and editor and has channelized her love for literature into mentoring young writers across the country. Ruchira is a motivational speaker, and since 2000, she has conducted several sessions for corporations, teachers, and students. Ruchira has been a broadcaster. She had a daily show on national television for 5 years. She also reads the tarot. You can read her tarot predictions on the Z News website every week. She has written for several print and online publications and then focused on the art of writing short stories. She believes writing a short story is the best way to set foot in the world of writers and writing. She joined hands with Mr. Hemant Kumar, a novelist, senior journalist and broadcaster to establish Quill Club Writers, a publishing house with a difference. Quill Club Writers selects its writers with care and then mentors them going on to publish their works. Since its inception in 2013, Quill Club Writers has mentored and published nearly 1,800 writers from all over the country. Quill Club Writers joined hands with Scholastic, the world's largest publishing house, last year. These two publishing houses has launched an online public writing and publish program called Right Now. This keeps Ruchira busy doing the work she loves. Of late, Ruchira has taken up painting and believes that colors, much like writing, are what can truly heal the world. She is also working hard on completing the manuscript of her first novel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchita. Ma'am, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much for that very, very warm welcome, Sachita. Shreya, for being the MC to this program. It's always a challenge in this online world. Raghav, for speaking my mind and making me so proud of having had the opportunity of working with you. Greetings to Mr. Just, I don't want to at all, to Dr. Bhavani Shankar. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this event. A warm welcome and a greeting to my colleague Loena, who is always supportive. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see so many people gathered here. I can see 118 on a Saturday morning to encourage and talk about something that seems to have lost its sheen, the value and the joy of writing. I feel really, really heartened. It's a remarkable thing. And I understand, Annette is a club for younger people. Is that so, Raghav?
Yeah, for the sons of Rotarians, yeah.
Oh, which is such a wonderful thing. Not only are you able to showcase your talent, but you're also able to polish your skills. As I can see the way the younger people today have manned the mic so well and so skillfully. These are things that will go a long way in their lives. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Raghav said, and I was quite mesmerized by what he was saying, that writing is everywhere, whether it is the heads of states writing a treaty, or journalists writing articles, or novelists writing novels, school children writing essays and answers. Writing is indeed all pervasive. And it is so joyful. In these times of stress, especially, I think we are all pretty obsessed by the current condition of our world. If a person takes to a pen, it is the most fruitful and effective way to spend a time which otherwise can make you feel rather helpless effectively. I don't want to talk in a very heavy manner. So I have had this thought buzzing in my mind since the morning. We all like to talk. We all observe. In fact, when friends get together, whatever their age might be, we talk. We talk about people. We talk about events. We talk about feelings. We talk about what we saw, we talk about what we loved, and we also talk about what we dislike. Sometimes we simply enjoy a nice gossip session. As long as it is not negative, talking can be great fun. When we aren't able to meet so many people, we can do this talking with our paper, using our pen, ink, or even a pencil. The most remarkable thing about writing is that it is a mere translation or a mere transferring of your thoughts onto paper. It is actually as easy as that and as fun as that. A person who writes is a guarantee will never ever be bored in life, because a person who writes uses all her senses all the time. When you're walking by a tree on a road, you can stop for a moment and imagine all the sorts of people who have walked under it or who have sat in its shade. And in a minute, you can build stories around all these people. Perhaps it's a large banyan tree which gives shade to passerbys. Perhaps one day an old man came and sat under it. Take a minute and imagine what sort of a life he has. Why does he need to take shade under the banyan tree? Where is he going to go from there? And you have a story. Suppose a child stands under the banyan tree. Is he standing there under the shade on his way to school? On his way back from school? Is he standing there plotting his next mischief? Or is he standing there worried about something at home? And you have a story. If you see a young boy and a girl stand under a banyan tree, you may wonder what's going on. Is there a romance brewing? Are they brother and sister? Are they going somewhere together? What is going on? That is the question a writer asks. Whether you are sitting at a doctor's clinic in a room full of people, sit back on your chair and look at each one and ask the question, what is going on? Where is this person from? What does she look like? Are the clothes she's wearing, do they denote prosperity? Do they denote a little struggle with money? Do they denote an office-going sort of person? Do they denote somebody who is a homemaker? What kind of a mood is she in? Is it 9 o'clock in the morning? Has she had to work in a hurry to reach the doctor's clinic? Is she happy? Is she worried about how she's going to go home and cook lunch? And you have a story ready. So, to be a writer and to be a happy writer, all you have to do is observe. Once you have begun taking that step of observing people, of thinking about situations, about imagining situations, you can start to write. It's actually that much fun and that easy. So you will find a story everywhere. And the moment you begin to write, you will begin to develop your language. You will begin to develop your vocabulary. You will begin to develop your skill. So, suppose you are cycling down a road and the road is riddled with potholes. One way to talk about it is to say the road was really bad. But if you're a writer, you're going to imagine and you're going to think, as I was cycling down that road and my cycle was bumping and bouncing over those potholes, I wondered if my day was going to be equally bad. Or if you're using happy words, then you can say, my cycle bounced and bubbled across the road and it delighted me because a smoother road wouldn't have had so much energy. This was a life all of its own. All I'm trying to say here is that to be a writer and to discover the joy of writing, first, you have to make friends with your environment. You have to find an interest in people. You have to find an interest in what is going on in the world. You have to learn to observe, surroundings and the people in the surroundings. And most importantly, you have to develop a strong friendship with words. Words are magical. Correctly used, rightly used, words can create a legacy which will last forever. We still read books by Jane Austen, which were written 200 years ago, and we still marvel at how she wrote. Absolute simplicity and such beauty. When we read Jane Austen, we know immediately what was society like when Pride and Prejudice was written. What was the condition of women at that time? How were marriages formed? How were alliances sought? And the whole picture is clear. Because she wrote 200 years ago about that time, and we know exactly what was happening in England then. When we read Mulk Raj Anand or when we read Premchand, we know what was happening in India. All a writer does is transfer the world around him onto paper. The other very, very important thing to remember, if you do pick up the pen, and I hope you do, because you should be truly inspired by what Raghav has achieved at this young age. If you do pick up the paper, the first thing you have to convince yourself of is that the reader is your friend. The reader is not your adversary. The reader is not somebody who's sitting there to tear into your work. Once you develop that confidence, you will want to give your friend the best, and you will start to write in right earnest. So I'm going to quickly, I had a conversation with Mr. Subramaniam earlier, and he had wanted me to talk about how to write also, along with talking about why it is indeed so joyful to write. So I'm going to take you through a few quick paces, and perhaps the younger ones and even the older ones, if you want, you can take down some tips and use them if you pick up your pen to write. These days, actually, you don't even need a pen. I just met a young boy the other day who has completed a 70,000 word manuscript on his phone. Their family has one computer, and the parents use the computer for their work, and the child has written on his phone, and he has completed a 70,000 word novel. And he says it's not complete as yet, ma'am. I would like to write some more and perhaps take it to an 85,000. I am absolutely amazed at what our youngsters are doing. So let's talk about something really basic. You want to build a character. You want to build a character. It could be a girl, it could be a boy, it could be an older person. What are you going to ask yourself before you write about the character? Obviously, how old is he or how old is she? Is she 40 years old but mentally 20? Is she 20 years old but has the wisdom of perhaps a far older person? How old is your character? This is going to define how you will write about her. Now, did your character have a happy childhood? What were her parents like? What was her family like? What was her neighborhood like? Did she get an education? Was she good at something when she was a child? What did she hate? What sort of relationships has your character had? So suppose you're talking about a much younger person, then the relationships a younger person has are primarily at home, in the neighborhood, and at school. What sort of a relationship did she have at school? What sort of a relationship did she have with her teachers, with her friends? Because the sort of relationships you are going to give your character will define whether she was happy or not. What does she care about? Does she care about something? Does she have a passion? Does she care about perhaps animals, perhaps the environment, nature, her family, reading, painting? Does she care about something? That also adds an added facet to your character. Is she obsessed about anything? Does she have some sort of an obsession? People do. Some people simply have to clean everything several times. They cannot live with untidiness. And some people wallow in untidiness. They feel it's natural and normal. Is she obsessed about anything? It may not be necessary, but perhaps your character has some sort of an obsession. What is her biggest fear? In younger children, what can be the biggest fear? Perhaps bad grades, perhaps the loss of a loved one, perhaps not doing too well in an event in school, perhaps not being able to understand something in a text. What is her biggest fear? Does she fear she's going to lose her family? Does she fear she's going to lose some children? Some younger people have that. And if your character is older, then what is her biggest fear? Does she have one? What is the best thing that happened to your character? What has been the high point of her life, whether when she was younger or now when she's older? Perhaps there is an embarrassing thing that happened to her. Is there an embarrassing thing that happened to your character? Is your character holding a secret? Did your character see something that nobody else saw? Did your character read something that nobody else has ever read? What does she know? And what is the one word that you will use to define her? Even while talking to you, I think I would have built 2 or 3 people in my mind who I can write about. I hope you're feeling the same way, because if you ask yourself these questions about your character, there you go. That's the first step towards writing. You have a person. Then, I wrote these points down so that I don't miss any. It's so important. You set out to write. When you set out to write a book, or you set out to write a short story, you have to find a key emotion. Is it a story about joy? Is it a story about success? Is it a story about motivation? Is it a story about sorrow? Is it a story about worry? What is your story about? Now, if your story is about sorrow, then how deep is the sorrow? Or how important is it? How much importance can you give it? Is it sorrow about not being able to watch a film? Or is it a deeper and more devastating sorrow of a bigger loss? Define that. If it's a story about joy, what sort of joy is it? Is it a big joy? Or is it something that happens every day? And like we say, value the smaller joys in life. Define that. Then, whose story is it? That you've made a character, and possibly that character is going to be your main protagonist, the hero of your story. Whose story is it? Do you have a person in mind? Do you have a sort of person in mind? I want to write a story about a military man. And what is a military man like? Immediately you have these points that stick out in your mind, and you know that military personnel are a certain way. But what if your military man was also mortally afraid? He had joined the army, he wanted to serve the country, but he was also human and petrified of being hurt, worried that he won't be able to go home, very, very afraid of pain. Maybe your military man is like that. You can do whatever you want. Remember, if you get to play God at any time, it is when you are a writer, because you create not only people, you create their entire worlds, and you do it exactly in the way you want to do it. There cannot be anything more wonderful than this. Once we have decided whose story it is, we might need some secondary characters. Who are the people in his life? Who does he interact with? Who are the people who influence him? Who are the people who affect him? Maybe you will build your secondary characters. But remember, your secondary characters will be amazing cameos, but they will not be larger than your main character. It happens sometimes when we read a book, we like a secondary character far more than the main character. That also happens. Perhaps it will happen to your story. Who knows? Then in your story, you have to decide which are the characters who are going to give a viewpoint, who are going to have a viewpoint which will affect your reader. Because when you read a book or when you read a short story, then anything anybody says about anybody else affects the reader's opinion. So who are the people who are going to have a viewpoint in your story? What is the main theme? Are you writing about romance? Are you writing about mystery? Is it a murder mystery? Is it a story about politics? Is it a story about slice of life? Is it a story about a fight with destiny? Is it a story about tragedy? You take a call. Remember, entertainment comes in several hues. There are some people who like to read tragedy. They weep and they want to read tragedy. There are some people who only want to laugh and they will read comedy. There are some people who are romantics and they only want romance. And there are some people who cannot tolerate any sort of emotion and want to simply read mystery and murder and action and adventure. So, what is the basic theme of your story? What is the overarching idea? What kind of a taste will the reader take back? Remember, you are creating. Remember, you are the one who's going to decide, and you are the one who will take the story to its conclusion. Now comes the serious part. Do you have a plot? And if you have a plot, how will you write it? There are two sorts of writers. The first sort of writer is a pantster. A pantster is somebody who writes as he goes along. He hates to plan and he hates to put things down in points first and then expand. Pantsters also write very successfully and they are very good writers. But when you are starting out to write, being a pantster can be mildly dangerous. The other sort of writer is the writer who plans everything. Some writers make Excel sheets about their chapters and about the plot points in their story. So let us say Ram will go here, this will happen, then both of them will go there and that will happen, and it will lead to a flashpoint, and that will be the end of my story points. And once they have their points down, they just have to begin writing, referring to their plot line. This, I think, is a challenge. And I'm so proud to say that all my students are able to make plot points. As for me, I have a confession. I understand the theory very, very well, but I'm a pantser, which is why, even though I have 65,000 words of my novel sitting on my laptop, I haven't been able to conclude it as yet. And I'm hoping to do it this year because I'm a pantser. I go back and forth and delete, takes away a lot of time. The ideal way to begin writing is by plotting down your plot, writing down the points, and then continuing. I think Raghav would probably remember this also. There is a very strong point and a very strong argument for showing what your character is doing and not telling. So, when your character is upset, you don't tell the reader, Ram was upset. You show the readers that Ram was upset. Now, here comes the play of body language. What does a person do when he's upset? What does a person do when he's nervous? What does a person do when he's excited? If you show the reader, you have actually managed to take the reader along your journey and, in fact, allowed him to enter your mind and see the vision as you had planned it. But if you keep telling the reader might get impatient. Here is where you have to hone your writing skills. I wonder if you know that it is even possible to give furniture character. You can say, for example, a stern-looking almirah stood in the middle of the room. It was painted a dark brown, and it had a formidable lock hanging right in the middle. One look at it and you knew that unapproachable. Now it's an almirah, it's an inanimate object, but you have actually turned the almirah into a strict, difficult to approach sort of person. And I have a feeling that if this kind of an almirah exists in a story, then that is where all the important things are kept. You can actually blow life into everything. That is, if you show and not tell. I'm just checking how much time I have, because this can honestly be endless and I can get carried away. I think I'm going to wind up now by, one can talk about storytelling and story writing endlessly. And I encourage all of you to pick up your pen and determine that from now on, you're going to look at everything as a potential story and everything as the potential character in your story. The moment you begin to think like that, your life is going to be full of interesting things, and you will forget what boredom means. You will not be bored at all, because wherever you go, whoever you look at, whatever you see will be a story, or has the potential at least to be a story. Make notes. Make notes on your phone, make notes on a pad, wherever you can, and then come back and sit and write. Even if you write 200-300 words a day, it is great. Set yourself small targets. Don't be over ambitious in the beginning. Set yourself small targets and start writing. Begin with the first sentence, which is the most difficult to do. And honestly, do not be afraid of feedback, because A writer has to actually be very, very vulnerable and open, because everything he writes is for the world to read. Don't be afraid of feedback. Writing is like art. Everybody perceives it differently. So it's okay if somebody likes your writing and somebody doesn't like your writing. Be humble about it. Be smart with your language. Be smart with your grammar. These are the basic tools you can't compromise with at all. So if you have those basic tools in place, nothing is stopping you. I think India is a country where stories have reigned forever. And it is a wonderful thought that we can begin writing in a big way again. Writing and reading are the two things that truly strengthen the character of a nation. And looking at these young people here and all the elders who are supporting them, I feel our country is in safe hands and we have a lot to look forward to. Thank you so much for this. And I'm going to close now, and I cannot wait for the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That really gave us a new insight. And the floor is now open for questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Ruchira ma'am?
Ruchira, I would have loved that you headed on for some more time. This was lovely listening to you, and I guess this is something like the story of the storyteller. So I really enjoyed, and there was no handle on the time. And I would have loved that I listened to you for the next few hours. So it was really really interesting, and thank you so much. So thank you for being here, and I would have missed it. I wasn't sure that I would be in this meeting too. So thank you, and it was really really interesting. So.
Unfortunately, I can't see who spoke such nice words. Else I would have named you and said thank you to you. Thank you.
This is Bhavani Shankar. This is Bhavani Shankar.
Dr. Bhavani Shankar. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Aryambika Babu from Intra Club of LMOIS will introduce Dr. Bhavani Shankar.
A very good morning and hearty welcome to one and all present here. I take extreme privilege in introducing Dr. Bhavani Shankar, a school leader, researcher, and active advocate of peer learning. He is currently the senior principal of Lalaji Memorial Omega International School and has previously worked in the renowned institution Chettinad Vidyashram. Dr. Bhavani Shankar, a researcher for over the past 15 years, has majored in the fields of aquaculture biotechnology, cryobiology, and reproductive biology. He has also been awarded many prestigious awards for his academic achievements. The Research Associateship Award, CSIR, Young Scientist Award, and BARD USDA Postdoctoral Research Associateship are just a few to name. Under his leadership, institutions have been credited and globally acknowledged for the efforts and achievements in academic, sports, visual and performing arts, research, innovations, entrepreneurship, internationalism, faculty and student leadership, community building, environmental sustainability, and many more. It is such an honor to have him amongst us today. Sir, you are an inspiration to all of us, and we eagerly look forward to achieving excellence along your guidance. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. What's on the agenda? So do I get to speak now? So yeah. What is it like?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Subbu. Subbu is a great friend, Mr. Subramaniam and Raghav's father. So it's such an honor to be a part of this book release function, and I thoroughly enjoyed Ruchira's story building exercise, and it's wonderful to note that she quickly connected with all of us, and there are so many takeaways. So my writing started pretty early in life when my father told me at that point in time, we did not have computers, and he said that the best way to talk to yourself is to start writing. And he said the best way to do that was to start reflecting on what happened for that day. I mean, that's how it started, and it's never stopped from there. And I have volumes of reflections that tell me or speak to me as to how I need to change my course. So this was the start of it. It's so very wonderful to listen to Ruchira, but I have a very interesting experiment that I carried out that I would like to share with all our young writer friends. We started a cascade storyline where the central theme, the characters, and the plot was given to a good number of students. But then the rule was that everybody in this group of 30 only gets to speak one sentence. So somebody starts off with the story, but by the time that it takes 3 or 4 circles, it's nobody's story. So, or it's everybody's story. Everything changed because I want to move the storyline into the direction of my thought, and the next person would manipulate and move it, and so on and so forth. So at the end of it, you have a wonderful story, but that's not your story, but everybody's story. So think of it as an interesting experiment, and you would want to move on from there. I congratulate all the young writers and the effort from Scholastic. So Shreya, I guess Tanya, Sachita, all of you that were here, Raghav. So the family of interactors, the Chandrodaya Club, the CS DAV's Interact Club, the Vidya Mandir Estancias Interact Club. So I could gather that a number of people are here. So trying to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful exercise. So I would also add on to say that the aspect of writing that comes at a particular time cannot be taken away for life. I mean, this is something that you enjoy in your private space. It's, see, if you're writing for others, that's a different kind of joy. But if you're writing for yourself, so there is so much more to expressing your emotions or your joy or happiness or questioning what happened through the real life situations for that particular day. I would be very, very happy if more and more students take up to writing. So writing for me has been, I would say, a kind of an ointment or say a sucker that would allow me to embalm myself over troubled times. And a recent insight through the reflections, the last word that I picked up from Ruchira was every writer has to be vulnerable. So vulnerability can actually be an enormous strength, and this was through a meditative session that I understood currently because of what is happening around all of us. So the best way is to expose yourself and say, humble yourself in front of everybody and say that, come, I'm a child, please pick me up. So that's a very interesting thought, Ruchira, and so I deeply value that thought as well. I mean, now moving on to say the efforts of the wonderful writers that have put together their thoughts. I have been asked to speak about so the ability of young people to get into this wonderful aspect of self-expression or a creative expression through writing. So the book that has come forward, put forward by Scholastic, the Fire and Ice, has a very good compilation of all the stories. So Raghav, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this event, as also to I would say officially declare this book open. So at any point in time you choose to stop me, please go ahead and do that. I read through the stories and I congratulate all the writers. So there is an assortment of different kinds of plots and emotions and characters, and it's so very lovely to read through all of it. And I remember what Scholastic has done over time. So the effort taken by Scholastic needs to be applauded, because they are promoting the purpose of engaging in reading and also writing. And over the last several years, I would say now for about 18 years, I've looked at several efforts of theirs where they have compiled the writings of young authors to give them a platform for self-expression. So one thing that happens now is the young writers, you are certain that your writing is going to reach a lot of people. I would say if it's the start of a lifelong journey, so don't miss a day of it, because it's so very wonderful. And I would say the realization that comes through on understanding life is tremendous when you take your pen on paper. Don't short circuit it by dictating to a computer, because that's a lazy guy's job. I would say take a pen, put it on paper and start writing, because that's a joy nobody can kill. So I would once again congratulate all of you. So the efforts put forward by the Rotary Club, the various interactors that have engaged here, the Annette Club, or the Annette members, as you call it. I wouldn't know much about the nomenclature there. Congratulations to all of you. So you're doing an excellent job, so not only as writers, but also as excellent young emergent leaders to take ownership for conducting this event. This also tells quite a lot about your capabilities and the way you're being nurtured to be future citizens of India. So God bless this wonderful exercise. Please tell me at which point this book needs to be formally inaugurated. So God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, author Raghav Subramaniam will share his experience with writing.
Shreya, so Mr. Bhavani Shankar has to open the book, and then afterwards, Raghav is going to share his experiences.
So that's it.
Open the book, sir.
So do I get to do the honors now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Shreya, MC, is it okay?
Yes, please. Please.
Okay, so with the permission of MC.
Sir, you've muted yourself, sir.
Is that what I'm supposed to say? So,
Sir, you muted yourself.
Sir, you've muted yourself, sir.
School when I was in Chennai Vidyashram at that point in time, and reading a compilation of stories put forward by children. So God bless this wonderful exercise. So to all the writers, congratulations. So this is the start of a lifelong journey.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now Raghav will be sharing his experience with writing. Hopefully.
So I really have to thank Scholastic for providing me the opportunity to co-author a book. So the program was called Right Now. And what we had to do to get into the program was there were two story prompts given. There were two-story. So when it was organized, there were two-story prompts given, and people were eliminated based on that. So the thing was, in the beginning, I was pretty unenthusiastic about the program because for people who know me, you know that I can't sit still for very long. My focus time is really less. So yeah, I thought there was no way I could sit still for 2 hours just to do the program. So this actually surprised me because I learned a lot during these programs, and it was a really eye-opening experience. So writing provides a much-needed release from the monotonous cacophony of a quotidian routine. It's an escape to a landscape created solely by you, a place where you get to decide how things are, like you're in a lucid dream. As Ruchira ma'am said, the one place where we can play God is when we're writing. We're weaving a web of creativity, all the tiny fragments of a spider web tangling, intertwining to form a whole new world. It can reflect hidden aspects of one's feelings and can be fantasy world, utopian, dystopian, depending on the writer and their whims. So Scholastic provided me an outlet because once someone picks up a pen and has an idea in mind, it's quite hard to stop writing something once they get into it. Writing is never just a habit, it's a passion, a lifestyle. Anything can be the beginning of the story, which really is quite inspiring, isn't it? Each person writes their own story and can change the direction they're going at any time, whether they believe they can or not. I used to think that writing a story was all there was to writing a book, but it wasn't until I joined Scholastic that I realized there was so much more.
Raghav, can you spotlight yourself before continuing?
Yes, 1 second. It seems like I can't do that. I can't spotlight myself.
Subbu sir can do it. He is the host.
Subbu, make me co-host for you.
Yeah, there's a problem. Like, I'm the host of the meeting, so I can't spotlight myself. So may I continue?
Yeah.
So the 2 weeks I spent in Scholastic helped me realize that there were many complications in writing a book. Playing with words is something I've loved doing for as long as I can remember. But it wasn't until recently that I learned to properly structure my writing. When you're writing a book, I learned that writing the story isn't the main part of creating it. You have to give a note on the author, a blurb, which is very important, and of course you need the title page, and you need to give your experience you had when you wrote the book. So the writing of a story is always an amazing experience, but being able to share my journey of development with 17 other people, that is an experience that can't easily be surpassed. I'm grateful beyond words to Scholastic for providing me with this opportunity, and I thank you profusely. So anybody who wants to try getting involved with the program, I'll be sending a link to you guys through the chat, and you can check it out. So the main program was called Scholastic Quill Club Writers, not just Scholastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raghav. It's the moment you've all been eagerly waiting for. President Rotarian Reggie Jost will now announce the results of the Big Book quiz.
Good wishes to all the participants of today's quiz event, the big quiz. It's time to announce the winners. Now, am I audible to all of you?
Yes. Yes, Reggie. Yes, yes.
Okay. We'll start with the junior category. In fact, I had the pleasure of hearing sitting through some of those questions, and it was really interesting. So time to announce the winners, the junior category. As usual, we'll start with third place. This third place goes, the winner of the third place gets an Amazon voucher worth ₹300. It goes to Nihal of Chandrodaya Interact Club of Lalaji Matriculation School. The second place, which gets the person who gets this gets an Amazon voucher worth ₹500. It goes to Panimalar Interact Club of Vidya Mandir, Estancia. And the first prize, or the top slot with a prize of ₹750 worth Amazon voucher goes to Lakshya of Interact Club of Vidya Mandir, Estancia. And a special mention goes to Tamarvani of Interact Club of Vidya Mandir, Estancia, and Roshan Pusala, Chandrodaya Interact Club of Lalaji Omega International School. So those are the winners of the juniors category. Congratulations to all of you. Now, moving on to the senior category, which consists of 15 plus students in the 15 plus category. The third place of who wins the Amazon vouchers worth ₹300 goes to Talia Manoj, Interact Club of Estancia. The second place goes to Annette Shreya Reggie, Annette Club of Roypeta, Church Park School. And the first prize of ₹750 of Amazon voucher goes to Gayatri R, Interact Club of Vidya Mandir, Estancia. And special mention to Shiva Swarna, Ashok Leland School, Hosur, and Aishwarya, RC Club of Chennai Renaissance. Congratulations to all the winners. Before I leave, I would like to especially mention and Sita, who worked overtime to put an awesome show for all the quizzes. Thank you, Ann Sita.
My pleasure working with you all. Thank you.
Now, and Rishwan Subramanian will be giving the vote of thanks.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Annette Rishwant of RCR and in Interact Club. Okay. Could everybody mute the mics? Thank you. So the meeting started off with Raghav introducing the speaker and chief guest, and also gave a speech on the gifts of writing. Then S. Sachita gave us a detailed speech on our guest speaker, Ruchira Mittal, who is a published author and what she has accomplished. This is then continued by our guest speaker herself, who congratulated Raghav on his speech and gave us tips on how to fabricate a story. She also told us that once we start observing people around us, we can clear the first step to becoming a writer. She then gave us help on writing novels. Next up was Aryambika Babu. Next up was Aryambika Babu, who introduced Dr. Bhavani Shankar sir in detail, who is currently the senior principal of Lalaji Memorial Omega International School. Dr. Bhavani Shankar sir congratulated Raghav on his. He told us about an event called the Story Circle, where 30 people were given a topic and were told to write a story. But they all got to say only one line. And so in the end, it will be everybody's thoughts and stories put together by their teamwork. This was followed by the inauguration of the book written by Raghav by Dr. Bhavani Shankar sir. After the inauguration of the book, Raghav told us about how he got to write the book and how Scholastic helped in his involvement of writing the book. And he also gave excuse me.
Share பண்ணிட்டு குடி.
Okay, so told us. So wait, is there any disturbance? Can everybody mute their mics? Yeah. Okay. So
Unmute yourself, Kana.
You need to unmute.
Yeah, okay. After the inauguration of the book, Raghav told us about how Scholastic helped him write the book and what and all he did during the writing of his book. So, in conclusion, I thank everybody for being here, attending the book quiz, and I also want to especially thank Ruchira Mittal for giving us, our guest speaker Ruchira Mittal, for giving us the speech and helping us giving us tips on writing a book, and Dr. Bhavani Shankar sir, our chief guest, for inaugurating the book and his speech. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Please rise for national anthem.
So just once again, if anybody wants to look towards future programs in Scholastic, just look into the link I sent into the all chat. Cool Club Writers. Okay, so we have the national anthem now.
So before the national anthem, everyone please take a note of the link that is provided in the chat. So all aspiring writers who in future will be seeing all your books, so please take a note of the link that is provided. This is going to be very, very helpful. Scholastic Quill Cup writers, they're doing a great job molding young writers. So don't miss this opportunity, grab it early, and please contact them if you would like to write. Take up writing as a passion. Thank you.